India and Kenyata heard about my story and they reached out to tell me they too walked away from their hostile workplace. They're trailblazers in the financial industry and as advocates vowing to speak up to help change laws and save others. How did you get involved in the financial industries?
So I fell into the financial industry. Originally, I'm a chief petty officer in the United States Navy. And as I was serving in the Navy, I had found out that I would be separating due to some medical situations that came up in my life. And I thought I was going to retire from the service. So I had no intention on ever looking at a different career path or anything. But when that happened, I said, well, what can I do? Luckily, I was helping people with their budgets, fixing their investments, like talking to them just different ways to get their credit repaired and helping my sailors enhance their financial situation. And with doing that, I decided that maybe looking at a financial advisor would be a good role. So I have no formal training in this space, and a financial advisor called me up, talked to me a little bit about what he did and how he was working out and how, like the career path and all that. And I just jumped in.
Kind of sounds like you had a gift and a passion for numbers and finances, and you said, let's go for it.
Absolutely. I love this industry on that front.
Oh, that, right, exactly. We're going to get to the other side that we don't like so much in a little bit. What about for you, India? How did you get involved?
Yeah, so mine really came out of nowhere. I studied broadcast journalism in school. Shout out to Deanna Dewberry.
Yes.
Honorable mention Cheryl Jackson, who was a
Mhm.
professor of mine at one point.
She's one of my good friends. I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was a
Yeah.
professor, one of my 400 level classes.
Uh,
I will never forget one of the scripts I wrote, and she gave me just the kindest compliment. She said, "Oh, you're a writer. Your script was good." And I was like, "Yes, I want to
oh
do
my God. She's one of my best friends. In fact, we were just talking today. We were doing a documentary together too about her brother. So yeah, I had no idea that you worked with her and knew her.
Yeah, she doesn't know. We don't know each other. It was an online class, and I was
Okay.
a name on a roster.
Okay. Okay. Oh, very
Obviously, I knew who she was, so
right.
it was
Small
special for
world.
me.
Small world.
Yes. But after I graduated, I started my family, got married, had a kid very early. So just I needed to pivot. And my best friend started in the industry as a stockbroker in the stockbroker training program. And she said, "Hey, why don't you come over here and try this?" And I said, "All right, let's give it a shot." Not thinking much of it. I was thinking I was just getting a good job, paying good money, but it really turned into a passion and a career for me. Once I learned all the things, I like to joke and say, I wouldn't have been able to spell the word stock before I worked in the industry. And now here I am a financial advisor. But the information was just so transformative for my life. And I said, well, I want to keep learning this and developing this. And my community needs this information. So here I am today.
What has it meant for the two of you to, as you just mentioned, India, the community needs it? It sounds as if you were very specific that you wanted to help our community, people who look like us, to make sure that they are putting their best foot forward in terms of their finances. Why was that so important for each of you?
For me, it's just not here. There's no one knocking at our doors, talking to our communities, to talking to, our parents, our grandparents about finances and financial wellness and building up stock portfolios. Like that conversation is not had in an African American household. So for me, it was really important to make sure that I target my community as far as getting there, helping with them, volunteering in there, showing them. I do educational seminars at schools, and we go out to different community events to make sure that they're seeing that there are financial representatives and advisors who look like them. But not only that, but we are here to help them. We want to be in our community and be advocates for our community.
Absolutely. For you, India.
Yeah, I think my eyes were opened in my first role when I realized I'm one of maybe one or two others on in my entire probably in the state probably yeah. But then as I was working with clients, I noticed most of the clients pretty much all the clients I worked with were white. So I worked on an 800 call line for the company. If you wanted to call in and place a trade on your account or take out money or whatever. And I never interacted with any Black people. And that was bothersome to me. So that showed me, A, we don't have enough money. We just don't have money to have these types of accounts. And I know just from my own upbringing, from my circle of friends, and I have some very established friends and network due to IU, and we're not in this circle. We're not in this category. So I knew it was just a blazing opportunity for me to go ahead and learn it and figure out, what do I need to do to make sure that I can give this information to my family, to my friends, so that we can just do better for ourselves and for the next generation.
Absolutely. As you talked about making sure that you were accessible to us, but the majority of your clients, it sounds like for both of you, they didn't look like us. You were helping them in their finances. Knowing that most of your clients were white, no doubt you all were working in an environment where you were the minorities, literally in the firms, correct?
And I think my experience is a little different than Kenyata's.
Yeah.
Or you can say that.
My experience is a little bit different because I didn't come from more of they're already client-based firm. So that firm provided some of the clients and their clients were already there. So our clients that I had to work with, I built. So I picked up the phone, called them and said, hey, I'd love to have a conversation with you today. And that's how we got started. So 90%, maybe higher, of my clients are African-American.
That's wonderful. What about for you, India?
Yeah, so she was very intentional about that. No, me starting off, it was all white. Yeah, the only. And so me and my best friend, and there were a few others, we just kind of stuck together. We got additional licensing. We made it just our main focus to elevate within the company that we were in, to seek out higher roles. And as we moved higher and higher, there's fewer and fewer of us there. And so that became a problem. And really, that's what led me to Kenyata. We met at a networking event, and she started asking me about my role. And she was like, well, I work with Black people. And I said, tell me more.
Tell me more. You're like, give it up. Yeah.
Because obviously there's a challenge. There's whether you want to admit it or not, there's still racial tensions. And when did we meet, Kenyata? I think it was 2020.
2020. It was December
2020, right? So we're in the heat of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter and the protests. And here I am working at COVID. And I was working at a large brokerage firm out of Carmel, Indiana. Very conservative, very red,
Indiana's very conservative.
Indiana's very conservative. Take what you will, not to say that conservative equals anything negative or racist, right. But there is something behind that I had to face on a daily basis as I was working with my clients. And you can tell, the sticker shock when they see you, either they walk into the office or you pull up that Zoom and they go, oh, this Black girl, you can just see it on their face. You can right through their eyes. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. I'm like, well, my name is India. I don't know what you thought. But there is
kind of a telltale sign there, maybe.
There's the shock that I always had to work through. And I got tired of that. And I
talk about that a little bit more, though. What is that shock? How did that feel to you internally when you see the reaction and you know that their level of comfort is discomfort because of who you are and how you show up in the world? And we can't change this. This is who we are.
This is it.
Immutable characteristics.
This is it.
Not going to it because I love being Black. Just saying.
I love it. Black is beautiful. I think I was born with my fist in the air. My Black power fist was in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. What was that like for you emotionally, knowing that you had to deal with that even on a daily basis? Every time you meet a new client or they finally come in, they're like, oh wow.
Oh wow, yes. It's frustrating. Your heart sinks a little bit every time. You think, oh my goodness, here we go. Is this person going to hear anything I have to say? Or are we wasting an hour of both of our time? And not only was I Black, but I'm a woman and I was fairly young, right? So this young Black girl, what is she going to tell me about my millions of dollars? So I had to face that. And it just became daunting, really. I would come home and vent to my husband, vent to my best friend. And it got to a point where I said, I don't think I really want to do this anymore. I'm tired of fighting that barrier. I'm tired of having to prove myself before we can even get to investment recommendations and financial portfolios. I think we spend half of the meeting just getting over that hump of, oh, this is a Black girl that I'm speaking to. And it just weighed on me. And so that's why Kenyata was a light when she said that. And I was on my way out of the industry. And I decided, all right, let me connect with her and see if I can hang on a little longer.
So you hung on a little longer. What was that conversation like? Do you guys remember between the two of you when you first met? Was it like another Black woman?
I was in awe because I had never, when I started at the firm, it was just me. So I was the only African-American woman there. There was no representation. And even when we went to like firm events, it was just me. And everyone knew who I was because there was the only one. So I loved when I met India. I was like, this is one. So I was so excited, and she was like telling me all of her credentials, and I was like, oh my goodness, I love her. I want you to work with me, mainly because I just didn't want to be the only one anymore. So that was my thing. Like, I didn't want to be the only one anymore. And even when she did join, it was when we went places, they were either calling her Kenyata or asking me if I
They were getting the two of you confused. Really?
Yeah.
When you still can't get it right. So I definitely think that I was overly impressed with just who she was and her professionalism and everything that she had, weathered to get it to be successful in this career. So for me, I was pumped.
It's interesting. You set up the conversation to move to weathering the storm. You two have weathered a number of storms. First of all, smart, intelligent, good at what you do, top of the class, I guess, is that what you guys call it? Top of, I don't know, how do you say that? Top of the something in your industry.
I'll take
what is
that.
Yeah. You were rising to the top. You are the cream of the crop.
I don't know.
You are the cream of the crop. So, like you said earlier, India, we have to continue to show how good we are.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but that's what we have to do because we understand.
Twice as good. We have to be twice as good as our counterpart.
Absolutely, twice as good, 3 times.
Which we were.
Which you were.
Yeah.
So having said that, you guys were the cream of the crop in the industry, in both of your chosen careers in those 2 firms. And yet you all were still feeling as if being your best, even better than best, was not good enough. Talk about that.
Oh,
I know it's loaded. It's loaded.
I feel like even though we were better than our male counterparts, white or Black, because I was better than males that are white and males that were Black. And truly, it's just because hard work and dedication had never been new to me, because serving in the military, obviously you push through trials and tribulations every day to get the mission done. And I came into this field with the same mindset. I didn't change who I was when it came to that. But the struggles, yes, you always face criticism. You're overly scrutinized. They will go into what you do 10 times over before they even look at what the males do. I felt like constantly invasion of privacy, invasion of processes, always being like, I want to know what you're doing right now. What are you doing right now? Constant text message, constant follow-ups. It was exhausting.
That's the word. Exhausting, exhaustion, exhausted, all variations. What about for you, India?
Yeah, I can agree. I think I'd echo that. I've had experience at many different firms, and I'd say the beginning part of my career, most of my frustration would be in relation to elevating in the company. My male counterparts, my white male counterparts could easily apply and get that next position. Whereas for me, it was always suggested, why don't you go shadow, or why don't you take this other lesser role for a little while first? And knowing that I had the same amount of knowledge and experience as the one that's getting elevated. So that was my frustration earlier on. I said, okay, they're not seeing me where I see myself. And then going to the firm where I worked with Kenyata, now the barrier is you need to do it our way. So we know the Black community is different. We are going to respond to different things. The system that was already in place is, pick up the phone, you call anybody, call whatever phone number you have, tell them who you are and that you want to help them with their finances. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good, but that's not really how Black people work. We're not just gonna pick up the phone and start revealing our
all
money
information and private stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. So I started to move a little differently, strategically, and oh no, that was a problem. You do it our way or no way. And I think once I started to establish that I was doing things differently, that's when the target was on my back.
But you were still bringing in results, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me tell you, Kenyata's being modest. When she says she was doing double her white male counterparts, I really think it was like triple or quadruple. She was miles ahead of everybody in the office. And myself, balancing 3 kids and my husband and all these things, I was ahead. Okay. I still had a very good lead. So yeah, I did it all probably in, I say, half the time and twice the effect, because I'm balancing my family life and trying to keep up with them. So that's where that strategic came in. No, I can't do what you guys do. I have to do what works.
What works. And what about for you? I mean, Kenyata, she was literally saying you quadrupled what many of your white male counterparts were doing, and yet they were still clear that they wanted you to fit in a certain little box. How did you navigate around the box? How did you jump out of the box and still stay true to who you are and be authentic to how you work and what works for you and your clients?
Well, their box sucked. I mean, just to be honest. They say the first 3 years in the financial industry, most advisors are doing $50,000. My first year alone, I did $456,000. So extremely different than all the other advisors and representatives that were in my area and across the country. I will say that their box just didn't work for me because a person could come in and give you an example. They could pick up the phone and call their dad and get 30 referrals, and that person's referring them to bankers and lawyers and politicians, and that's their clientele list. That ain't my clientele list. Like, it just didn't exist. So when I pick up the phone and I call people, I know that I'm working with a smaller price point. I'm working with people who have to be truly clear on their budget. I want to help them understand their budget. I just don't want to sell something because commission's got to get paid and you got to move, you got to move, you got to move. That's just not how I work. I'm a people first person. And I wanted to make sure I was taking care of my clients, which drove them crazy because they wanted you to pick up the phone like a robot, call 40 people, set an appointment, hang up, make them clients, move on, talk to them again next year. And that's just not me. That's not my clientele. That's not how I do business with anything I do. So I really feel like their box was just terrible. Like it's not a good system. It doesn't make you, it makes you successful. Are you setting appointments? Are you bringing clients? Yeah, eventually you are, but who are you calling? And are you really building a connection with somebody that's going to be sustainable? My clients are friends for life. I was in a wedding with my clients. I've been, travel with my clients. These become my family and my friends, and they don't want that. And that doesn't work for me. So
it sounds as if both of you, you're working from, not from a cultural standpoint, not just that, but it was really integrity, character, faith, as well as helping people. And there was heart involved. There was compassion involved. And that is something where people say, well, money and feelings don't connect. But yet it seems as if that was the case for both of you, right?
You know what? I can speak to that because if it were for money, I would have never teamed up with Kenyata, right? Because I came from companies where I was making good money. I was working with millionaires. You know, my lowest client, my lowest account size was $250,000, right? That was the smallest I could go. So it blocked out my family, my friends, the people I cared about most. They didn't have $250,000 of liquid assets to work with. And so when I had that conversation with Kenyata, and she said, well, I'm working with everybody. She said, I'm not just working with millionaires. I can work with someone who is starting off. And I said, well, tell me more, because how are you making money? How are you getting paid? I don't understand. And so she told me more. And I said, well, hey, I don't have to just work with the millionaires. If you're saying I can still feed my family, I still got to have a check, but I want to make, enough money to be okay, but I want to be available to everybody. So yeah, I sacrificed that coin so quick because it wasn't about me and my riches. It's about our community and all of our riches.
All of us winning together, winning together.
Yes.
It sounds as if the two of you guys, I mean, you all formed this great little connection, this relationship. And, you have so much in common, in addition to the fact that, you're both in an industry and in environments that didn't really protect Black women. Let's talk about that.
They hate it.
When we think about,
They hated it.
They hated it.
They
hated seeing the two of you guys working together. Is that it?
They hated it.
Ooh, yeah.
Really? Like
Yes.
what? Like, how could you tell?
They really didn't let us work.
Oh, I knew.
Yeah.
I was in a leadership position, so my insight for the situation is different. I knew that our leaders hated our working role. I knew that there was a lot of hostility there. At our leadership role, we would do private one-on-one meetings with our team. Well, India was part of my team as well as other members, and he no longer allowed me to meet with my team privately. He would always allow the male.
Our manager.
Yes, our manager. He would always allow the male advisors and representatives to meet with their team privately. But me, he took away all of that because he felt that the influence would be different if we were having one-on-one conversations. And I wouldn't be preaching his message if we were having a one-on-one conversation, because his message was the only message to ever be preached. And me and him, we didn't see, our values didn't align.
That's it. The values. I'm sitting here going, are you kidding me? I can't believe you're saying this, but yet I believe it. I totally believe it, because many of us in corporate America, really in any aspect of society, we are in positions where they don't want to see us working together because there's a level of power and control they still want to have over you. How did that feel for you, India, knowing that, there was this difference, if you will, in terms of how often you can connect, how you can, build a bridge and be physically together, but also being told you can't be together? Yeah.
I didn't know for the longest time. My head was down. I was working. I didn't understand why me and Kenyata's one-on-ones changed. At first, her and I, for the first couple of months, maybe just a couple of weeks, really, we met one-on-one. And then suddenly our manager joined our call, and I just thought, okay, maybe that's how it goes. So she didn't want to bring that negativity to me and tell me this is what's really going on. So I just knew it changed. And it took a while as in a few months, for me to start questioning what is really happening in here, because I noticed Kenyata and I don't really work together one-on-one. Our conversations seem to always be involving others, and there was no encouragement. We would try to do community events and things like that together. We would never get any support. But if she did something with her white counterpart,
they were all in.
Support, all in, okay, funds and all. But when we did things, it just always fell apart. So I didn't see it right away, but in retrospect, yeah, it was in my face.
Do you think you didn't see it right away? Because we never want to think that that's the case, right?
Yeah.
I know in my situation, you always know racism is prevalent, but no one, especially Black folks, you don't want to go to work thinking I'm going to be, someone's going to denigrate me or manipulate me or gaslight me, or, the microaggressions are because of the color of my skin. Yet we intuitively know that, but we don't actually speak it, right? You feel it, but you don't speak it, because to speak it is to bring energy and the reality to it. And you don't want that to be the case. So did you find yourselves, both of you, kind of navigating around that? Like, I kind of know what this is, but I'm not going to call it out. I'm just going to keep my head down, just keep working and see how it all flows.
Oh, no, I called it out. I told our manager that he has an issue with hiring African Americans because he was dealing with a lot of hostility between India and some other advisors. He felt like they were too combative. Like these women have too much to say. And I told him, well, that's because all you do is hire 22-year-old white women. And he was like, oh, that's not true. And I was like, well, I can count all 22-year-old white women. And every now and then you'll sprinkle in a 22-year-old white male. But you have a serious problem when African-American women challenge what you want in them or what you say. And that's your problem. It's the challenge. He doesn't do well with anyone challenging him. So that was really difficult. And I was navigating in the space where in a leadership space, I'm the only Black woman in here. There are no other ones. There is no one else to speak on our behalf and to, be a role model and to set an example and to fight for what's right. Let me stay as long as I can in this position to make sure that the women up underneath me are not experiencing what I am, because I was dealing with a total different situation where this man would tell me to shut up in public. He calls women all types of names, and I am sitting here forced to deal with it when you have someone in a leadership meeting and he tells you to shut up and you don't have an opinion and you can't fight this situation back.
Wow. When that happened to you, when you heard him say, shut up, what was the first thing that came to your heart and to your mind? How did you deal with it?
It hurts my feelings. It really did. And I didn't come from that. So in the military, everybody we get spoken to with respect to our pay grade and our rank. But no one's ever told me to shut up. That just never occurred to me. And I've never experienced that. And I would never do that to any of my sailors. So for me, it took a lot out of me. And I told my husband, like, I don't know how long I can deal with this. And, it wasn't his first incident, and it was a constant, you want to laugh like, oh, it's a joke. No, you're not joking. You're dead serious. And it's, humiliating to me because you don't talk to the men that way.
Yeah. Anything similar to like that happened to you, India?
I think it's funny when I hear her say that, and she's told me that a few times, but I didn't have, in my lens, I didn't have a bad relationship with my manager. I actually loved him. I respected him. The only time, and Kenyata, you tell me if there's something else that you remember, but we had a great relationship up until this incident where I was shut out of a meeting. And I think, is that what you're referring to when he says I was combative? Because I don't know.
Oh, no.
Under what circumstance I was combative. What?
I think for him, it started before we even moved to the office, the new office. We originally were in a Zionsville office. We moved over into a Carmel office, but during that transition, it was people working from home. We may not have been able to make certain meetings. I know India had a lot of home responsibilities, as all mothers and wives. And that was during the time where he was having some issues with her being combative.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't think it's combative. I think it was her just having to do what she had to do.
So let me give you some context. We were independent contractors.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so we were employed contractors is what I was told when signing my paperwork. Employed contractors, whatever that means. So we should be able to move the way we need to move. And I made it very clear before I came to that office, hey, look, flexibility is number one for me. I have 3 children and a husband. I am the one getting my kids on and off the bus. And, I can do all the things I need to do as long as I can get home at a certain time. And that was no problem. He made it known up front, we'd have a lot of trainings and team things we need to be present for. And I said, no problem. So a few months in, once all those trainings were over and I was fully functioning in my role as an advisor, I said, all right, I'm going to go home and make sure I get my kids off the bus, get dinner started and things like that. And still working late, working till 9-10 o'clock, mind you. So forgive me for my couple hours break to get my kids together, but we were working all night and up at the crack of dawn. So he didn't like that. He's one of the ones that once he's in the office, he does not like that work from home stuff. But not only does he want you in the office, he wants to see what you're doing. You need to be visible. Don't be behind a door with no window. You need to be out here. I want to see your laptop. He just had that presence, and it was magnified when we did move to our new office. He had it built out in Carmel, built out, and it was all glass.
Oh, wow.
Glass everywhere. Yes. And open concept. We no longer had individual offices. We had a community shared space. And if you needed privacy, you could go in this booth over here that's big enough for 2 people and all glass. And there were a few other,
Still see you.
All glass. And so, we deal with confidential information. We need privacy. Some stuff should not be on display for everyone to hear. And so it took a lot of effort for him to even put up with like the fog smoke.
Yeah. Oh, we fought that because
we had to fight to get that.
Gosh.
Yes. So that's what he means. That's what she means by combative. I just said I need to be home with my kids, and that's me being combative.
And she would still make the meetings, but he was upset that she wasn't there in
in person.
But it wasn't even a meeting that he was supposed to be at because it was a one-on-one for me and her, not you.
It wasn't even included. Wow. Yes. Isn't it interesting though how the word combative? Think about that. Let's talk about that. There's no easy way to put this, but whenever people who don't look like us are confident and are very clear about how they feel, outspoken, they are deemed courageous, and all of the nice positive words are assigned to them. But when we stand up for ourselves, we're combative, aggressive, the angry Black woman, hard to work with, undisciplined, all of the negative, hostile, all of the negative attributes that are associated with us. When none of that is true, we're doing the same thing our counterparts are doing, but it's assigned to us in a different way. Let's explore that a little bit. How does that make you feel, knowing that no matter how we show up in the world, we're always ridiculed? It's never good enough and it's always bad.
Yeah, I think, well, for me personally, I know that every time I showed up in the meetings and different things like that, like I was always the outsider because their values just didn't align with my values. That's a lot of the reason why I had the people that I have working with me on my staff. So, my staff members were people that I trusted, people who look like me. My husband was on my staff more for protection, just because of the things that behind the scenes in the leadership team that I dealt with compared to what was happening to the other advisors on the floor.
Let me ask you, what does that mean when you say your husband was your protection?
I needed him. I needed him to be there because there was just times where I would break down crying of the things that were said, the things that are being done. And it would be really hard because I'm the only one dealing with it. And that to me was difficult. So I needed him there. That's just it. Like I needed that man in that office because of the situations that were the things that were taking place.
Wow. I've never heard of that. I mean, how the level that we have to go to feel protected and safe in a workplace environment. That is, I don't even know how to respond to that. That's so, I didn't expect to hear that. And I'm sure other people who are listening or will listen will probably say the same thing, going, are you kidding me? Where in 2021, 22, 23 are we having to employ our spouses to help be there so that I can work to protect us because we don't feel protected and safe in the workplace environment? What does that say, both of you, about where we are in this world, that we don't feel safe as Black women?